Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for strategies to help prepare for transitions, pre-K through high school. I have joining us today Dr. Susan Thomas, who is going to be talking with us about how to make these transitions a little bit easier.
Well, thanks for having me today. And I know this is a busy time for us as we get ready to transition, and thinking about that. And when we talk about transitions, there are many transitions that we have, but we're really talking about that time when you have students starting school for the first time, like I have a granddaughter who's starting kindergarten, or moving from elementary to intermediate school, or elementary to middle school, middle to high school. And then, of course, we have students exiting out into that post-secondary employment world. So Melissa, if you'll hit that next slide there. I was kind of thinking, Melissa, since I'm talking about grandchildren, and I know you have children, so you've more recently experienced this kind of anxiety that happens sometimes when you think about transition. Have you had that, a little bit of anxiety as you were thinking about your own children? And I know you got one getting ready to transition out of high school. So
Yeah, I certainly have. I have two boys. One is now 22 and one is 18. And I remember like it was yesterday, that anxiety of, getting ready to start school. And even though the two boys are brothers and raised in the same household, same parents, they're very different kids. And so, the transitioning into elementary looked very different than transitioning into elementary for my second child. And so there was some anxiety about that, but there were some things that my husband and I did, to try to not only help our child's anxiety, but also our own. And I know that we'll be talking a little bit more about those in a minute, but one that I wanted to go ahead and mention is I would share with my child's teacher before school even started, I would write up what I called an all about me, with information about my child. What were things that Cameron, because my younger son has autism and ADHD, and he was really, really, whenever he was younger, really obsessed with the alphabet and letters. And so I could tell his teacher, if Cameron is anxious or getting worked up, if you give him some alphabet stickers or give him some letter magnets, that helps to calm him down. And so, but doing these other things, trying to talk to him about his feelings and what's going on, boy, that's going to escalate things for him. And so I think that it made me feel better, but the teacher also appreciated having kind of a heads up of what works for my kid and what did not, so that way it made that transition for him and for her a little bit easier. Susan, would you agree?
Oh, I would certainly agree. And I was just thinking as a teacher, how meaningful that always was to me to have that information. And so now's the time that we want to be thinking about those things, kind of collecting a little journal of things that you think will help teachers. And, I always say, maybe the teacher won't find it helpful, but we don't know. So write everything down. And so I love to get things like that. That's great. And so we're going to talk right now. A lot of times we want to wait till summer to start thinking about getting ready, but now is really the time for us to think about those transition things and to get those things done in the spring. And we're going to talk about just a few helpful hints. And the first thing I really kind of want to talk about is really checking enrollment. So making sure that you've got your child registered. So I was telling my daughter, who is not an educator, I said, you need to check to see when registration is, because, they're deciding how many teachers they're going to have right now, And so she went and, looked to see when they would start registration. So you can go on the website and find that information out, your child's school's website. If you're not sure what school your child's zoned for, you can call your district office and they can help you with that information. But the website usually has all that information, but you can always call and somebody will help you. And then you want to find out, what do you need to enroll? There's nothing worse than trying to enroll and not having everything you need. And sometimes places, require you to have a certain type of proof of residence. Sometimes they want some additional records. So you want to get that information so that you can gather and have it ready. And finally, another big one is health requirements. We do still have required vaccines that have to be given at a certain time. Of course, there are always exemptions, but you have to have the paperwork for those exemptions. And then also any kind of health records that you have, if your child has special health needs, if your child's been if your child has a disability that the school's going to need to know about, we want to make sure schools have that information early. That's really, really important. So, kind of finding out about what's going on at schools. How can you stay up to date, Melissa? How do you stay up to date with what's going on in your children's schools? And as you've looked into those your children going to the next level?
I know one thing that I would do a lot is make sure that I was set up to get updates from the school, whether it would be receiving a school newsletter, or I would on Facebook, I would like, my kids go to school in the upstate, and so I would like their schools, and my boys are 5 years apart, so they would be at different schools. So I'm trying to keep up with what's going on at the middle school, what's going on at the elementary school, and keep it all straight. So I would like the pages for their two schools, and then also for the district, because that would give me information about what was going on, and straight from the school, not necessarily, I might talk to my neighbor whose kid also goes to, my child's school. But I really kind of stayed away from like parent groups and things like that, because a lot of times the information that was on there either was not correct, or it wasn't thorough, or sometimes it didn't apply to my kid, and so it really, it was better for me to plug in with the school's information, and then if I had any questions, if I had any holes, I could reach out and get more specific information. So
I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure you got that you're, and I know a lot of times you can opt to get information through text now,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah, I would sign up, and a lot of times the teachers at the beginning of the year will give you a code to sign up for, like Remind 101, that will send, because I mean, I don't know about y'all, I need those reminders. I may think about it, 2 days ago, but the day before I've already forgotten about it. And so those reminders are very helpful. I need them.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So a lot of times we want to talk about visiting schools, and I think this is important. I think particularly for students or parents who have a lot of anxiety. Sometimes you hear things about schools and you've not even been in the school. And so it's important to have a school visit. A couple of things to think about. If your child is transitioning from like elementary to intermediate, elementary to middle, a lot of times they'll do a field trip. And so if you'll click on there, do a couple of clicks there, Melissa. And so that's a great way for your child to see the school. Of course, you're not going to be with them. And so you might want to schedule a visit. And so you'll want to call the school and set up a time that works with them. Remember, spring is a really busy time for schools. As I say, as soon as spring break is over, and this week it'll be over for most of our South Carolina schools, the testing season begins. And so you'll want to make sure you get a time that's convenient and you can actually take your child. And I really do think this is important. And if you have a child who has some really special needs, you might want to do this in the afternoon after school's out when it's quieter so that they can actually see the building. You know, those are some good things. And the schools are glad to do that. My son is an assistant principal. He was heading up to the school yesterday afternoon late to do a tour with a family. And so I think those are just things that you want to think about so that you can take a look around and see what the building looks like and all those things.
Well, and you know what, Susan, I will mention, we did this with my son because he has a really difficult time, even if, you know, rooms are numbered. And I know I've got, especially whenever you get to middle school and high school where you're changing classes a lot. He would really struggle with, how do I get, I know that I've got English, then math, then science. How do I get from English to math and then from math to science? And so we, every year, we would do exactly what you said. We'd call ahead. We'd go ahead and find out when is a day and time whenever we can come up and meet with the teacher. And the teacher, you know, sometimes the teacher would say, hey, I can walk you through your schedule. Or other times, especially once, like, for example, at the high school, when he had already been at the high school 2 years, then it was, hey, can Cameron and I come up to the school and walk his schedule? And they would just let us, you know, we would set up a time in advance and we would walk the schedule, and we would do it multiple times so that he could look for, you know, just like if you're driving somewhere and you have kind of landmarks that, you know, hey, I turn at the field with the cows, or I turn at the Dollar General. He would need to know, when I get to the cafeteria, I take a left and walk down that long hall. And that helped his anxiety tremendously. So
I think that's I think that's a great idea. And you know, we all need to do those things sometime. I think about when I practice driving somewhere, if I'm going somewhere important, I want to know the route and know how to get there. So it's a great thing to be able to do. So, you know, we kind of think as we're thinking ahead, and it's spring, and I know, you know, no one gets more excited than when school supplies start coming out, but you know, than me, because, you know, I'm an elementary teacher at heart always. But I will say there's some things that we want to think about as we get ready for next year. Melissa, can you kind of talk about a few of those things that are important just right now to be planning for?
Well, one would be, usually school districts will go ahead and put out the school calendar so far in advance. And so I always recommend, go to, whether it's your school or your school district's website, go ahead and find the calendar, mark it on your calendar at home, you know, your family calendar, so that way, you know, what is the registration date? What is the date, you know, whenever you have to have paid your fees by? What is the first day of school? You need to know that whenever you're figuring out whether it is vacation or when is my kid getting his wisdom teeth out? You know, there are things to schedule around. So making sure that you have that school calendar, that is also helpful for, you know, if your child, if the parents work outside the home and it's going to be a teacher work day. Well, where's my child going to be during that teacher work day? And going ahead and getting that squared away with the daycare, with grandma or whoever. So going ahead and making sure that you have that school calendar squared away. With the school supply list. Now, granted, big box stores that shall not be named make it very easy for us these days, and they go ahead and print out the list of, these are the school supplies that 3rd grade at Wren Elementary needs, or, you know, 10th grade at Spring Valley needs. And so, you know, but wait to buy those school supplies until you actually have the list, because there's no point in buying a bunch of stuff that, you know, you spend all this money and then you can't use it. So save on that. Some schools will also have, you know, certain requirements, you know, where they have clear backpacks, you know, so don't go out and buy your child a $85 name brand fancy backpack and then you find out later that the school only allows clear backpacks. Or like my child's middle school required clear water bottles. You know, you could like reusable water bottles, they could not have color. They had to be clear. So making sure that you know those things ahead of time. It avoids a lot of aggravation and a lot of wasted money. And then also your kid being sad that they don't get to use the hot pink Peppa Pig whenever it's got to be clear, non-trademarked water bottle. So those are things to think about. Also thinking about the dress code. Does your child's school require a uniform? Does your kid's uniform from last year still fit? Making sure that that is something to look at. How long do the shorts have to be? Where your child's fingertips ended last, in may not be where your child's fingertips end, may not be appropriate in August. They may have had a growth spurt. So going ahead and making sure that you've got all of those things figured out. And then finally, thinking ahead about transportation. Is my child going to ride the bus? Is he going to ride the bus in the afternoon, but I'm going to drop him off in the morning? And making sure that you filled out those forms for the school that clearly indicate how transportation is going to work. Also, if you have a student that has an IEP, my son had an IEP, and transportation can be a related service as part of that IEP. And so if that is the case, making sure that is also squared away, that I might not walk out to bus E11 with the kid who lives next door to me. I might be on a different bus. And so making sure that that I, the student, know where I'm going. So did I miss anything there, Susan? That was a lot.
Yeah, I think those are all great things. I think I think to the school calendar and also thinking about transportation too. I know a lot of times schools have after school care. And you need to make sure that if they're after school care, or will it be available during those days off? Because I know that was one of the things I just dealt with my daughter. She said, look, they have after school care, but it's not available on teacher work days or early release days. So that made a difference in what they're choosing for childcare. And so those are some things that I maybe wouldn't have thought about. So there's some things to think about there. And also just making sure that if your child is in a childcare, daycare, making sure that there's transportation provided, that they go to that school, those kind of things you want to check with your daycare center. That was one of the things my daughter was doing. And so this is real to me right now as I'm listening to working with her on these things. So I think that's it's just a lot. And now is the time we want to be thinking about those things. So
Right.
I'll let
So
you.
that's not a panic in August.
Right. Right.
Oop, I
Yeah.
should have clicked on that for the dress code earlier.
Yeah.
Well, and I will mention with the dress code, that you might be able to have jeans with holes in them and things like that, but the holes may only be able to be in certain spots or certain sizes. And so making sure that whenever you pay for those holes or Belks or wherever, that they're school appropriate.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit. There's a lot of things we do to get ready, getting our clothes and supplies, but also we want to make sure that we are, our children are, and us as adults are socially and emotionally ready for school to start. And so I want to talk a little bit about a couple of things that is really important. First of all, we really need to think positive and be positive about school. You may not have had a good middle school experience or a good high school experience or a good elementary school experience. This is not the time to share with your children those things. We want to be positive. We want them to have a good experience. And, if last year was a bad year, and we have them, those are, my children certainly had them. We don't want to dwell on that. We want to start out as a time to start over. And so that's one of the things I have always loved about being an educator is every year we get to start over. And so I think just saying those positive things and thinking of the positive things about school with your child are really important, and talking about the things they're going to do. I had a conversation with my granddaughter in the car the other day, and she said, we won't get to play at school. And I said, well, you will get to play when you go to school. It won't be the same, but you will get to play. And so, in her little mind, it's already, I'm losing playtime. Um, so we want to really talk up school and the importance of it. And also be really careful about getting involved in negative conversations about the school. It doesn't help. If you have, there are a lot of social media going on now. And a lot of people have had an experience and they share it on social media. It's not just about schools. This can be about anything, churches, places of work, anything. But be careful not to engage in all of that. If you do see something that's concerning to you, call the school and ask. But also don't share things on social media that are not going to be helpful to improve the school. If you have a problem, you need to tell the school. You need to tell administrators at the school so that they can help fix that problem. Social media is a wonderful thing, but it can also build a negative behavioral momentum about places. And so we want where our children go to school to be positive places for children to learn. And we help build that positivity by adding to it about the good things. And so also share the good things that happen. When good things happen and you're on social media, share those things. And then school is an exciting place. I love school. I still love to go in schools. And so we want to go ahead and start these conversations with your children to find out about what's exciting. What are they looking forward to? What did you look forward to at school? For my son, it was lunch and recess, but there are other things. But let's talk about the exciting things that happen in school. And if your child needs visuals, this is a great time. You might want to, on that school visit, take some pictures, and then you can use those visuals to kind of talk with them about what they might like and have them think about those things that they're excited about. And always go to something that you know is their preference. And so, Melissa, I loved you sharing, talking about the alphabet. Okay, so that's helpful for me as a teacher, but that's also helpful for you as a parent. Can you imagine taking a great picture of, of letters on a classroom wall and then going, oh, look, here's something you're going to see in your classroom. And let me tell you, now with technology, teachers are more than happy to snap a picture and send it to you. So talk about that excitement. And then finally, we all have a lot of fears. Our children have fears, and it's really important for you to kind of talk with your child about those fears and things that they're afraid of so that we can start giving them strategies for those fears. And I think, anxiety leads to so many things at school, and a lot of times it manifests itself in inappropriate behavior. And so when our children, and we've got a lot of children who have experienced trauma, if they're anxious and afraid, then sometimes we see that inappropriate behavior, or either they kind of just freeze and they don't engage in learning. And so it's very important for us to know these things and to address them. Now, I always say we don't want to breathe life into them. What we want to do is get strategies so that they know what to do and how to handle it. And all of our schools have school counselors. They have guidance counselors. And so don't be afraid to call and ask, the counselor if you would like some help, and say, hey, I don't know how to handle this. And all of our schools have access to both school psychologists and mental health counselors. And so even if it's not, I want my child to see a counselor, guess what? Counselors can give us ideas as parents too on how to handle things. And that's something that they can do and offer to you. And so don't be hesitant to call them and ask about that. They can help. And also, if your child does need to see a counselor, remember those services are available in schools. And of course, you are very well aware of what's being offered to your child as a parent. All of our schools do that. They make sure you're involved. So, Melissa, we've covered a lot, but in a short amount of time, but we have resources. Can you talk about some of those resources we have?
Oh Lord, I can talk about them, and probably for much longer than we actually have left here. So, but I will tell folks where to find these. So if you go to the Family Connection website, which is just familyconnectionsc.org, if you click on the education tab, you will see lots of great information, and part of it can be getting ready for school, and some of these things that we discussed today. Things to do before school starts. What do I do in terms of daycare, childcare after school? What are some considerations or things I need to be thinking about in terms of transportation? So I definitely encourage you to take a look at this. There's even some tips on there about, getting into some good sleep routines and how do we get ready. It's kind of, I remember whenever my boys were little, boy, the time change was not my friend. Time change was always really hard for my boys. And so we would have to start, a couple of weeks before, either backing up their time whenever they would go to bed or pushing their time whenever they go to bed forward. Same thing with school. During the summer, a lot of us, at least at my house, we're a little looser on what time is bedtime. But boy, before school starts, we need to start getting ready for it so it's not a shock to the system when you have to get up at 6 a.m., but you went to bed at 9:30 and you really need more sleep than that. I'd also encourage you on the Family Connection website to take a look at some of these early childhood transitions. Has some great tips on, your preschooler, your kindergartner, your elementary student, and just some recommendations and strategies of things to take a look at. Like we said earlier, middle and high school is kind of a different animal. So we recommend taking a look. This resource from Scholastic has some great information about making the move to middle school and what are maybe some of the changes that you can expect as a parent and your child can also expect. So, and then finally, what are some steps on how to smooth or ease that transition from middle to high school? And this is on understood.org. They have a lot of great resources, and they give some steps for transitioning to high school that would be helpful to take a look at.
And I know you share these, you can share this PowerPoint with people
Yes.
with us today. And if you click on those tabs at
On
the
the
top,
links.
it will take you to the website.
Perfect. And I will be sending those out either later today or tomorrow. So I'll be sharing that with folks. Family Connection, as always, we have a lot of great materials that you can order from us free of charge. And some are available for download, and then other ones, if you just fill in the little form, we'll mail it out to you. So I recommend that you take a look at the Family Connection website. At the top of your screen, you'll see order materials. You click on order materials, enter your address, and the information that you are interested in. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at that. We recognize that special education, regular education can be a complicated process. Family Connection, we're here to help. So if you have any questions or concerns, anything specific that you need additional help with, please feel free to contact us. I'm putting in the chat right now. I meant to do it earlier, but I forgot. I just put in the chat how you can reach out to us to enter a referral. And so I recommend that you do that. You can also either do the referral or you can call us at our 1-800 number, and someone will answer the phone, take your information, and get you connected with someone who can provide additional assistance. All of the information that we have available in English, we can also provide those services in Spanish. And so you'll see here that we have a separate phone number that will be answered by a native Spanish speaker. So if you prefer assistance in Spanish, or if you're working with a family where they speak Spanish and could benefit from some assistance, feel free to have them give us a call. Am I forgetting anything, Susan? I know we went kind of quick there at the end.
I think that's great. I think those were some helpful hints, and I appreciate you sharing as a parent those things. It's fun for me to watch now as a grandparent. I don't have all the responsibility, but I still feel a little bit of the anxiety. So
there's enough anxiety to go around, but we'll
yes,
put a positive spin on it and try to ease it as much as possible.
absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to and hope to see you again in the future. All right. Take care. Thanks, Susan. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you have questions, Family Connection is here to help. You can call our Family Information Center at 800-578-8750 or visit our website www.familyconnectionsc.org.